And there we go.
Just saw the new funky pop-up. This meeting is being live streamed.
We are hello, live stream world. Hey, YouTube world. Hi, Frank.
Good
Hi,
day.
Mike.
Hello, sir.
Small but passionate group here today, and maybe others will follow. I know that because of CES, I have a sense that there are a bunch of people that are otherwise occupied.
Oh, is there a watch party or something?
There are a few, I think, actually. Is
cool.
Today's the last day? I think maybe.
Yes, they finish at 4 p.m. Las Vegas time.
Which is 7 p.m. my time, I guess.
Yeah, for Frank and I, that would be, we are, what are we, between Las Vegas?
Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, we are 4?
3 hours.
Yeah.
Difference. In any case.
That's right. Yeah, we're saying with Dave. Yeah, the Eastern Standard people are here. Yeah, we got it.
Frank, you don't use events or sessions, do you?
I have events. I've created events, but I don't use it very often.
How have you found the experience?
It's a lot of work, but I think it's a good tool. I think if you used it a lot, you would probably get more proficient at it. I don't use HubSpot or any of the other Eventbrite or anything, so I can't really compare it to those things. I like that it's all in one spot. You can do the tickets, you can do the billing. It uses stuff, if you're a Zoom user, that you're familiar with. I mean, there's a lot of goodness there, but there may be downsides, but I'm not probably the right guy to talk about it.
Yeah, I've never really played with it. I've been a participant. I've never set one up. I'm only asking because there were a whole bunch of earlier this week updates to sessions and events, but
yeah, there were a lot.
I don't play with them.
Do you have a background in web design? Web pages.
I don't have a background in.
You're a smart guy. You do a lot. You tinker with a lot of stuff. Anyways, what I kind of found it was imagine you were going to launch a website. You have to have, depending what the topic of your website is, you have to have images and photos and text and blurbs and things. So setting up a Zoom event, you might have to have bios, you might have to have headshots, so you kind of have to have a folder structure somewhere on your hard drive with all this content so that when you go to make the Zoom events, it's all ready to paste or upload into the appropriate places. And if you were going to do this on a regular basis, you almost might want to have a team approach where one person's the photographer or handles all the the imagery, and another person writes all the prose, and then somebody maybe would all combine it. But I mean, I'm sure there's some people do every task that's required for a Zoom event, right?
Right, or you hire someone or a team of someone to do that for you, which is probably
but it very much felt like building a website to me. Like you have to have all the all the assets so that you can do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Minus writing the code, but
minus writing the code. Yeah.
Well, no. When you talk about web design, for me, web design doesn't mean CSS or HTML. It means going to Wix.com and building my site by dragging and dropping it. That's what the Zoom events experience is.
Yeah, I mean, 100 years ago, I used HTML in a Notepad editor, and then it was Dreamweaver, and now and I think 10 years ago, I was using something called RapidWeaver.
Sure.
And now there's all kinds of GUIs and front ends for that sort of thing. You don't have to really know anything about HTML. Right. But you do have to have text and photos and things you want to put on. And then I feel it's very much like that.
Absolutely.
So the events platform is very WYSIWYG. So you can, you could do, as long as you know how to use, Word or PowerPoint or anything funky like that, they're pretty much even Zoom events is probably even easier than that.
Yeah, there's all the stuff up, there's a lot of language to learn, and there's nuances about how do the tickets work, and are they free tickets or paid tickets or presenter tickets. There's a lot of things. None of it's impossible to learn, but are you going to have concurrent sessions? Are you going to have just one track? You have to understand all of that, and then you also have to understand how Zoom works. But if you're coming to it and you already understand how to use Zoom, if you already know how to do meetings, if you already know how to do webinars, you're just building on the scaffolding, right?
It's a little easier. I will say that when I was exploring it, some of the lingo, well, because it's a much more complex architecture, because it's doing so much more, some of the lingo did confuse me. So co-host versus co-owner versus there's another name even. I don't even remember all the names.
I don't remember all the names either, but
that piece was a little.
There's also the concept of hubs. I don't know if you looked at the whole
Right.
thing about hubs. So,
Right.
there's the main sort of hub, like say you're an organization and not like a one-person entity or corporation of one. But if you're, let's say, a big company with lots of divisions or something, you might have, a hub for the overall arching sort of the whole company. But then maybe I don't know, whatever division A might have their own hub. And then Division B might have their own hub, and there's this sort of idea of sub-hubs, so they can have their own events pages that aren't necessarily the global events page, and there's all of that structure to think about too, right? And then you can give people permissions. Let's say you're the owner of the whole thing, you can give sub-permissions to some people to be the like in charge of one hub, but not all the hubs. So there's that sort of hierarchy as well, right?
You've talked a few times about how, or you've reminded us a few times how Zoom thinks about every person as an organization, and it's interesting because for non-orgs, for individuals who are using events or any of these services, really, a lot of the structure that Zoom has set up feels redundant or unnecessary or painful even. Hubs, if you're not an org with multiple departments that need to do different, it just kind of gets confusing. But Zoom built for the biggest, and then it allows the rest of us to play in the sandbox with them.
Sure. Which is why it's so challenging, I think, for people who are just casual Zoom users. They don't understand, like, I'm the only person who owns this Zoom license. Why am I not an admin all the time? Why do I have to go into the admin section? Why can't I do it in my meeting section on the community forum for Zoom? Same kind of questions all the time because they don't get it because they're not used to dealing with enterprise tools, right?
Yeah, but I
David,
wonder. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, what I was going to say is that basically what David is wishing that Zoom would have is Zoom for home.
Sure.
As compared to Zoom for business, which is right now what's happening.
Let me be clear. I'm not complaining. It's just a pain point for people. I'm not. It's fine. I mean, I think from a UI or perspective, I wonder how difficult it would be for Zoom to collapse admin settings and user settings into one when Zoom knows that there's only one human being using this account.
They'd probably have to change the architecture of their code quite a bit, like to
See, I don't know anything about code, so that's why.
No,
it
but
seems
I
simple to me.
mean, I don't know. Mike's probably in a better position than me to talk about this, but it was built from the inception to be more like an enterprise tool,
Right.
and to go back and change it now would be, tinkering with the fundamental building structure, millions and millions, probably billions of lines of code at this point across all their platform. And then that seems like a huge undertaking for an area where they don't make a lot of money. Like one of the things.
That's another important point, right? They make almost nothing.
Like there's a lot of people who use Zoom for free and who are always complaining about, why doesn't Zoom let me do this? Well, I'm sure Zoom's kept all the metrics since the beginning of time, and they've said, what's our conversion rate from people who are free users? How many of them actually end up paying us? And it's probably not that high. And they've probably done the math and said, we'd rather get Ford or GM with 5,000, 25,000 licenses in each city and concentrate our efforts on that market segment because that's where all the profit is. And the free people, hopefully we convert some of them, but it's never going to be enough for them to say, we're gonna dive into this so it's for the free people. Google, everything's free at Google because you're the product. All the data they get about you is what's valuable to them, and the services they offer are just sort of an enticement to get your data. Zoom is saying our service is our product. You're not our product. The service we provide you is the product. So they're less interested in, I'm sure they have some use for those metrics, but they don't monetize them the way Google does, right?
Right. And on top of that too, right now that the way that the actual interface works that we actually log into is again got the admin as well as user separation. They would literally have to make an additional, to me, it would be easier for them to just basically make a brand new portal that would be sort of just home
new
user
client,
type
yeah.
portal.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the Zoom client change, but how when you actually log in, it knows that you're now a home user versus an enterprise user, and you get sent to the home user interface, which is now with the combined, as we were saying, the user and admin together. But again, it would be limited to down to just what a home user would need.
Right. It's like Google Workspace and Google Vanilla, Google Plain.
Right.
Interestingly, there, if you have both, there have been tremendous pain points there also. If you're trying to juggle both a personal Gmail account and both of which I have, and a Google Workspace account, it's a major pain, or it has been, like syncing information, transferring information. It's a major pain. So providing both, it will solve some problems and perhaps cause others. Sorry, Frank.
No, I was just going to say, Google, there's a website, I'm probably going to say the wrong website, but I think it's Google Killed by Google or Google Graveyard. There's more than 400 Google products in there the last time I looked that Google has abandoned. You know how Google always has everything in beta all the time? It's kind of like their get out of jail free card, like this is beta. You could you could rely on Google for something. Yeah, Killed by Google. You could rely on something very heavily and invest yourself in that. And then Google says, well, there's no more reason for us to pursue this. And then your whole structure that you've come to rely on is gone. Zoom's not going to do that, I don't think. I think Zoom is going to stay for a long time. And I don't see what's in it for Zoom to make a Zoom at home simple interface for free users. Why should they spend the money on that?
Right. If the conversion isn't there. Right.
If there's no conversion, why should they do it?
Right.
What's in it for them?
Yeah.
There's no business case.
Yeah, and David, on that sheet of the Killed by Google, the biggest one that I've been hearing a lot of grumblings about is the Google domains, which is huge. Is that basically they no longer will sell you domain names, and they were doing that for companies as well. So
yeah,
that was
I don't know. I've always gone to Hover for my domain names. I don't know. I never had the need to get.
I think the big picture question though is if you're not nimble, if you're a corporation, if you're a big organization with thousands of people, do you want to put all the time and energy into technology that may not be there in 2 years? It's a big investment for an organization to pivot from one platform to another platform. I've done it, and sometimes it takes a year and a half or 2 years to pivot. Is it worth it to rely on something that is free and may not be there when you invest so heavily in the concepts?
I do think that. I mean, yes, they kill a lot. I mean, half of the stuff on here I was probably using, and I don't even know that they've killed it because I haven't used it that much.
Well, other companies do that too. They give you free offerings. But I mean, do you want to build a significant business case in your organization for something that may not be there 2 years later?
Right. I guess there are some things that, and maybe I'm being naive about this, but Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, I don't see those going anywhere.
No, because that's their bread and butter, right?
Right. I mean, if they,
but they don't monetize
anything
it.
That's exactly right. Anything that's in the suite, what do you call it? Whatever it's called, the Google Suite, work, whatever it's called, Workplace. You're right. And you're right, it's because they monetize. I mean, free Gmail is not going anywhere. It can't. It can't.
Google gets to read all your email and knows a lot about you, and then can do forecast sales trends and decide what search results you get, and they get advertising money from that, right?
Is there any reason why Zoom would not want to continue free accounts? I mean, I don't know what the cost is for a 40-minute meeting of up to 100 people.
It's probably not that much. I think what Zoom has done is they've really gotten rid of all the support for free users, and it's a real pain point for free users. They can only talk to an AI chatbot. They can't talk to a live representative from Zoom and say, help me figure out my issue. They can't submit tickets anymore. So Zoom's cost has gone way down because, I mean, I think servicing support is a very expensive endeavor, and it seems like they've reserved that. Not even for paid pro accounts you don't get support. You have to be enterprise to get support basically now.
So business can get support, education, I believe, can get support.
Maybe government, I don't know.
So you
but
don't
I don't
think pro doesn't get support?
I don't think a pro account gets you access to
That's interesting.
live support either. So they've probably looked at.
Yeah, it's only tickets for us.
So they probably they've looked at that and said, you know, we're not going to pay for that, for the amount we make off of these people isn't sufficient for us to spend the money. And I'm not saying if that's the right decision or the wrong decision. I'm just reporting what they've done, right?
Sure. Wonder if what it says.
It does say if you expand it on the chart at some point, you'll see.
Yeah. So here it is.
You basically have to spend something like $200 and something a month before you can get support. And
so live chat support. If this guy right here is the pro plan, so free, pro.
But
business. Let me just
the footnote's what's important.
No, of course.
There's an asterisk
basic,
down
pro,
there.
business plus. All right, so now let's look. So let's see here. You've got, if you're on a pro plan, if your subscription is greater than 50 USD a month, you get live chat.
Yeah.
You get live phone if you pay more
200,
than 200. If you're on a business account or higher, you get both of those. They're both included.
But if you're paying $14.95 a month, you get the AI chatbot.
You get nothing.
And there's a lot of complaining in the Zoom community about that.
Well, but how? I mean, Zoom can't offer live support to 1 billion people, for goodness sakes.
No, but I can't have this conversation with every single person who uses Zoom for free, but what do you do if you use Microsoft Teams? There's nobody you can call for support for Microsoft Teams. Google doesn't have any support agents for free users. Like, it's not uncommon, but there's this sense of, we want support. Well, then pay enough money to get support. Like, support is a premium luxury.
Right. I mean, let's remember that when the whole world discovered that Zoom was a thing, it was free.
Zoom also, during the pandemic, gave 2 years of free unlimited meetings for education.
No, exactly. They gave it, but they also gave to everyone pretty much.
Yeah,
I mean, they gave it was a completely unintentional bait and switch, right? They did not do this to trick anyone, but they gave everyone a free experience and then said,
I'm a little cynical. I'm sure some of it was humanitarian in nature, but it was also a chance for their product to be seen by millions and millions of eyeballs that otherwise would not have been seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge marketing opportunity.
It really
I mean, it's shameful to say that when so many people suffered and died. I'm just saying, but from a business perspective, if you take humanity out of your business equation, it was an opportunity in time where they could get their product in front of millions of people they otherwise would not have ever had. And there was probably some residual amount of people who stayed because of their introduction. But I think the free accounts, they've got the conversion numbers. I don't know this as a fact. I'm just speculating. But I'm sure they've done the math and said, we don't convert enough free people, so we're not going to spend money in that area.
Right.
I think, I don't know the complete history, but I believe that the founder of Zoom started at WebEx. And that might explain some of the architecture of why, because WebEx is very enterprise-y as well. So
yes.
He probably came with his experiences from WebEx and the mindset of WebEx when, and he probably had things he didn't want to do like WebEx. I've never talked to the man, but it probably explains partially why Zoom seems to be geared more towards an enterprise mindset.
I've been surprised that news stations continue to use Cisco and haven't
This,
like they kind of
yeah.
they were like they were using that before, and they're just stuck there. I don't know. I'm not complaining about it. It's not. I don't know that it's any worse. I was just surprising.
Right. Robert May actually made a comment to us a few weeks ago about in the Zoom Test Kitchen regarding Cisco's support over Zoom support when it came to certain situations where Robert was live having a problem live, and he actually was able to reach out to a live support person, and that person actually joined the actual meeting to see what he was seeing as a problem. So that type of, again, it's the Cisco world, right? So Cisco, if Cisco is now WebEx, the way WebEx used to be, is totally changed to what Cisco WebEx is now. So Cisco taking over has the mentality of, they've always been in the enterprise world, especially with routers and switches, because the internet was basically built on Cisco. So when it came to the actual support that Cisco WebEx will give, they're more into the technical realm as compared to WebEx used to be in the previous realm. Because again, I've been to a couple of, to say the least, a couple of hundred WebExes, probably be shooting a low bar because I've been in this for over 20 years. So in the regards of WebEx's quality, things have totally changed. That I could say. But go ahead, Frank.
WebEx is cheaper also.
I was just going to say how many people, like, I want to be sensitive, and sometimes I'm not sensitive the way I want to be, but I'm not going to articulate this well, but how many 65-year-olds grandparents are using WebEx or even know that WebEx exists?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Nobody, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Again,
it's an enterprise tool, right?
Yes. Yeah. They don't want WebEx will compete more directly with Zoom in the market and Teams, where they're again, everybody's based on the, you're buying Office 365 and you're including Teams. You're Zoom, and now Zoom wants to be more like Office 365. WebEx is just WebEx right now. They don't want to be anything else.
You can't stream from WebEx on anything other than enterprise. That's really interesting to me. And like they've got everything else, and up to 200 people on this would be WebEx would be the pro plan. Up to 200 people. You've got multi-language captions. You've got everything here, but streaming you can't do. I don't quite understand. It's really interesting. I don't know if it's any better or any worse. I don't know.
I haven't used WebEx in probably a year.
I don't think I've used it ever, to be honest with you. I'm sure I have, actually. Someone I'm sure has called me at one point or another on it. But
I mean, I go to lots of different video conferencing or web conferencing platforms, and I hate Google Meet. I hate it, but it's easy to use. I mean, if there's very little to configure, turn your camera on, turn your microphone on. That's about it. It runs in a browser. Most people could use it. I don't like Teams. I'm not saying it's hard to use. I just don't like it. I don't like the UI. I don't like the layout. I don't like the way it looks and feels. I've used other things. I used Blue Jeans for 3 or 4 years. Mixed feelings about that. I don't know. So, Zoom to me is the best platform I've used so far that's not like Polycom or something where you're doing real video conferencing.
What do doctors and therapists and stuff use? Is that Teladoc? No. Is there like one?
There's probably lots of them.
There's probably lots of them.
If you're in Australia, what they use there is probably different than what they're using in the UK or something, right? But Zoom has a Zoom license for healthcare providers.
Oh, it does. I didn't know that.
Because it's got different restrictions and security measures for HIPAA compliance and things like that, right?
Right. That alone Hey, Fred, how are you? He's looking for the mute button. While he's looking, that alone, having to, it's going actually, Mike, back to what you said about Zoom for Home. They
Right.
sort of have that with Zoom for Government, Zoom for